Hi everyone, it's me Gaming Do, and I just want to start off by saying happy 2021 everyone. We finally made it through the year 2020, which was for most people an awful year. For me, it had its really good moments and really bad moments, but for the world in general, this was a pretty bad year. But what about the films? What about the whole film industry? How was that this year? That was pretty bad too because a lot of films got delayed due to the pandemic and a lot of films were released on streaming, which is not bad because I watch a lot of my films on streaming. I don't go to the movies as much as a lot of people do, even though I love going to the movies. I don't go as much as I'd probably like to. Yeah, but it is finally time to do this year's ranking of the 2020 films I've seen this year. Um, I saw 9 films this year compared to the usual 11 to 13 films I see every year, but because it's 2020, it is kind of understandable that I have seen less films this year. Only saw 9, and more than about half of them I saw in December. And even one I admittedly just saw today, which is going to be the number 9 spot. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. My number 9 movie is a movie with an actor I really like. I like him in The Emperor's New Groove and Tommy Boy. That is none other than David Spade. He wasn't too bad in this film. He wasn't great, but oh boy, his sidekick in this film, I guess you can say. Her name was Missy, was god awful. And coming in at number 9, the worst film of 2020, in my opinion, is The Wrong Missy. Oh, God. This film was pretty fucking bad. I'm going to admit it. I kind of have a special soft spot for Happy Madison films. Like, a lot of films critics hate, such as Grown Up, I kind of like. There's only 2 films that I can really say are as bad as they seem. That would be Jack and Jill and this film. Oh my god. I I can't explain how bad this film is. Is it as bad as something like the Emoji Movie or Food Fight? I don't know if I'd go that far, but this is probably the worst new film I've seen since the Emoji Movie was on a list. Yeah, we actually this year we got a really bad movie at the worst spot. If you can't recall the previous 2 years, I really didn't put anything really bad for the last place spot. This year we got a really bad movie for the last place spot. I saw this movie because I've recently been kind of on thing watching a lot of David Spade's movies, such as Black Sheep, Tommy Boy, The Emperor's New Groove, etc. Because I picked up Tommy Boy on Blu ray the other day, and that movie is one of the best comedies of all time. So is The Emperor's New Groove. Emperor's New Groove is probably literally up there with Toy Story 2 and Finding Nemo. Is one of the best animated films of all time, in my opinion. So funny. I can't say that about The Wrong Missy. The Wrong Missy, all I'm gonna say, um, something happens between the girl and the dolphin that made me physically sick. Like I said, David Spade himself wasn't that bad in this film, but everything else outside of David Spade was horrible. Literally, it was putrid how bad everything else was. If it wasn't for David Spade, I think this film probably would have been up there with Jack and Jill as the worst Happy Madison film, and even on par with films like Food Fight and Norma of the North. Absolutely awful film. Coming in as my number 8, is going to be a film I think I gave a little too much credit to. That would be Scoob. Well, in my opinion, Scoob was not bad, but it wasn't very good. Um, the one thing I think this film needed that it really didn't have is it didn't really have the feeling of Scooby Doo. I was mesmerized on how good the first 15 minutes of this film are. Absolutely great. It seemed like it was setting up a mystery. It was like it had the feeling of Scooby Doo. They even remade the theme song. And I gotta say, if that was like the rest of the movie, this would have probably have been in the top five. But because of that, because of how it actually is, I gotta say, this film is not very good. Um, Scooby and Shaggy are alright. I like them kind of. Fred, Daphne, and Velma are okay. I absolutely hated the new character, or not the new characters, the other characters, like Blue Falcon and Dynamite. They were like so unneeded for this film. This film is about Scooby Doo, not Dynamite and Blue Falcon. And they had more of a focus than Fred, Velma, and Daphne. What the hell? Like, I gave this film a little too much credit when I first watched it. And now, well, it's not bad. Not a bad movie because it does have some good Scooby and Shaggy moments, and first 15 minutes were honestly wonderful, and I kind of like the ending too. Everything else is more like a 5 out of 10, but because of those good aspects, I'm probably going to braise this up to a 6 out of 10 as a whole. If you're a Scooby-Doo fan, maybe watch it once just to see how you think of it, but I think you're going to be a little bit disappointed. Alright, number 7 is Impractical Jokers, the movie. You probably didn't expect I was going to have this film on the list. I just randomly saw this film on HBO Max and I was like, I've seen a couple episodes of the show before. Why not? I think this is going to be a perfectly fine movie. And that's exactly what I thought of it. It was a perfectly fine movie. Nothing phenomenal, not something that made me laugh out loud every 5 seconds. There was a couple jokes that made me laugh out loud. Such as the mall Santa scene. But, here's the thing. When the Impractical Jokers are acting more like the Jokers they are on TV, it was wonderful. Absolutely hilarious. When they're going on the road trip to Miami, however, it's not quite as good. I would say when they're doing like the Impractical Jokers like scenes, it's like a 7 out of 10. But when they're doing the road trip scenes, it's like a 5 out of 10. And there's a little bit of both. But this is probably the one I'm going to talk about the least. And I'm probably just going to say it was a good movie. Honestly, I can truly say Impractical Jokers, the movie, was a good movie. If you like the show, you're going to love this a lot more than I do. Because while I like the show, I'm not a fanatic like some people, such as the Lost Sonic Fan 7, who is a huge fan of the show. Which I can say with confidence, I think he's going to love this movie. Me, I thought it was good, but I didn't love it. Alright, coming in at my number 6 is going to be Birds of Prey. You guys probably think, oh, you love Suicide Squad. Oh, you love Suicide Squad. You said it in your old review of the film. Why is this only number 6? First of all, I don't love Suicide Squad anymore. As a matter of fact, I don't even like it anymore. I find it to be a very, maybe not as bad as some people consider it, but it's not a very good movie. Birds of Prey, however, is a good movie. I'll keep it at that because it's been like 6 or 7 months since I saw this, and I've kept that opinion. I think Birds of Prey is still a good movie. I gotta say, I think the biggest negative of this film is probably that something a lot of people liked about the film that I kind of didn't. I didn't really like the style of the film, I guess you can say. It was, I don't know, kind of too flashy, I guess you can say. I also didn't really like the scenes where Harley Quinn was talking about breaking up with the Joker. But when she's with Cassandra Cain and the rest of the Birds of Prey, it's a pretty freaking awesome movie. Um, Ewan McGregor is a probably the best part of the entire movie. Black Mask was an utterly pretty damn good villain. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal. I think the best film of the DCEU so far is Shazam, in my opinion. Shazam stomps this film to the ground. I mean, they're both at the number 6 spot on my list, but Shazam is much better than this film because the films I like this year, I like them fine. Like, this is basically the exact same rating I would give the film before this and the film after this. They're pretty much the exact same rating, a 7. There's a lot of 7s. Well, there was a fair bit of 8s, 9s, and even a 10, I think, last year. But this year, yeah, this is a 7 out of 10 because the style's not that great and it has a lot of lovey-dovey Joker and Harley Quinn breakup scenes. But it was a fine movie. Coming in at my number 5, I loved this film when I first saw it. Absolutely adored it, but when I really sunk in and thought about it, this isn't the best direction for the series to go. So that's why my number 5 is going to be SpongeBob Movie Sponge on the Run. I saw this film, I'm going to admit it, I saw it on Kim Cartoon, and unlike most people, I thought this film was good. I originally thought this was a 9 out of 10. I was like, this is going to be the best film of the year. It highlights SpongeBob perfectly, but it really doesn't. And I mainly say that because the Camp Coral scenes are really, really, really unnecessary. If you took away the Camp Coral scenes, this would probably go up to an 8. Because I also feel like the plot with Gary getting stolen is kind of familiar and it really isn't. It's another unnecessary plot, but that's more forgiving because it's not annoying flashbacks about them in Camp Coral. And it doesn't screw up the freaking um timeline. Like everyone knows SpongeBob met excuse me. Um SpongeBob met Squidward and Mr. Krabs for the or at least Mr. Krabs for the first time at the Krusty Krab and Sandy at her tree dome, but here it's saying they all met at Camp Coral. This kind of completely screws up the continuity, which has to bring it down a few points for me. But I did like this more than Birds of Prey and Impractical Jokers because it does have that good old feeling of good old SpongeBob. And I'm a sucker for SpongeBob, so I found this film to be good. Probably a little better than the previous 2 spots. Coming in at my number 4 is going to be the first Pixar film of the list, the first of 2. And you know what it is. You know which one was the weaker one this year and which one was the stronger one. Number 4 is Onward. I think this film is way better than any of the films so far. Matter of fact, this is the first film on the list that I love. I actually love this film. I found it to be really, 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 really charming with the bond between Ian and Barley. I love the voice performances by Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. I love the whole journey they went on to basically find a crystal to bring back their dad, and that ending, man. I gotta admit one thing, Onward was sadder than Soul. It truly was a sadder movie than Soul because the ending is actually really emotional in this film. But Soul overall is the better movie, and you'll see that later, obviously. But um, this film just it just it's a great film with a great leaders, great leading actors. It has a great journey. It has a phenomenal cast. It has a great world, beautiful animation that just brings it to a level that is just. I loved it. I love this film a lot. Now, the next spot is a film I didn't expect I was going to love. But I gotta truly say, my friend, I mean, it's pretty obvious the Lost Sonic Fan 7 basically holds this film as the holy grail of this year. He'll call it the best film of the year. I mean, it's pretty obvious when you see what movie it is, but surprisingly, I love this film too. I just wouldn't call it my number one. Coming in as my number 3 is Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm nowhere near as big of a fan of Sonic as Lost Sonic Fan 7 is. Not even close. I know enough about the characters to basically get the basic gist of the series, kind of. But for the most part, I don't know all the lore that he knows. I don't know all the references that he knows. I don't know all the songs that he knows. But this film was pretty memorable, and I loved it. And I think that all has to do, he'll probably disagree, but I gotta say, my favorite part of this film was Jim Carrey. Welcome freaking back, Jim Carrey. You were missed. It has been years since Jim Carrey was this fucking funny. Oh my god. I remember the fucking, I think there was a breastfeeding joke or something, and Eggman was literally like, nice. And in the middle of the theater, I was laughing hysterically. It was unbelievably funny. Every scene with Eggman is funny. The scene where he dances, oh my god. I don't know what to say. He's just one of the funniest characters in a movie. Probably the funniest movie character this entire year. But what about Sonic himself? He was unbelievably charming and very funny on his own, too. I also liked, I almost forgot his name, but I just remembered his name, Tom. I don't remember the rest of the characters' names. I know Tom, Sonic, and Eggman. But, this film, probably in terms of pure humor, is the best film of the year. This is definitely the funniest film of the year. It constantly made me laugh. And I like the ending where Sonic, I think it's implied he's going to be staying with Tom up in his attic. It's a really nice ending. And this is a big surprise on how good this film actually was. Because this is a really good movie. And it's one of 2 2020 films I own on Blu-ray. The other one is Birds of Prey. But I had to get this on Blu-ray because I love this film. And honestly, it's the 3rd best film of the year. It gets the bronze medal. But what film gets the silver medal? Silver medal goes to a film that's a little more serious. It's a drama, a sports drama, and it is it is none other than number two, which is okay. I stand corrected because this was really hard for me. I'm so sorry. I predicted that so fucking wrong, but I do think this is pretty accurate. Number two in actuality is Soul. It's not that sports drama. That's next. I gotta say, that sports drama I talked about is the number one film. But number two is Soul. Again, I'm sorry, guys, but let's just talk about Soul. Soul is perfect. It's the best Pixar movie since Toy Story 4 by a landslide, and might, in my opinion, might even be better than Toy Story 4. It might be the best Pixar film since Coco. I loved Soul so much. It is just a complete and utter inspiring film about basically the main message is what your passion is does not define you as a person, or it doesn't define you as a person. Like, for example, Joe has a passion for music. That doesn't define him as a person. And that's the big lesson of the film. Like, it seems like all he cares about is his chance at music, but then he learns that there's other stuff he should care about, such as his family, him teaching his students, and a lot of other stuff. And it's also really funny. Not as funny as Sonic, but 22, played by Tina Fey, is a really funny character. I love the scene. I love when she took over Joe's body, or her soul took over Joe's body, and he was a cat. Those were definitely the funniest parts of the movie. This film wasn't especially emotional, but it was a really funny film nonetheless. And if you want one film that's just going to inspire you to work on your life, I think Soul is going to be it. Soul is an amazing movie, and it came close to number one. So close. That's why I miscalculated it, because these two are basically on par with each other. But I didn't leave quite as emotionally. I wasn't quite as emotionally invested as I was in the number one spot. Because number one is a film that I've been meaning to see all year. I've wanted to see this film all year, and I finally got to see it, and I don't regret it. Because it is my favorite film of 2020. And that film is The Way Back. The Way Back is my favorite film of 2020. Oh my god, is this film emotional. It's all about a coach named Jack who is an alcoholic, and I think he's working at some like construction place at first, but then he gets hired to coach a high school basketball team, and then basically they suck. They suck ass. But he basically yells at them and motivates them, and they turn out to be really good. But the biggest problem though is that he is a chronic alcoholic. And you see some of the best acting you'll see all year. I wouldn't be surprised if this film lands on the top 10 best movies of the 2020s decade with how good it was. And if I knew how good this film was going to be, I would have made this my last film to see in theaters before the pandemic started, because this film actually did come out about a week before the pandemic started. So, oh my god, did I ever love this film. And It's just so emotionally investing. Um, Basically, this is kind of a spoiler for the film, but basically his chronic alcoholism is so bad that he gets fired, and then he's so drunk one night from how sad he is that he breaks into some guy's house. He basically falls off the balcony or something. Then he goes to the hospital. And then he basically, his ex wife, I think, tells him that he, he needs to get help because actually, I think, I think at least, the big reason why he's an alcoholic is because his son died. And when I found that out, I got misty eyed, admittedly. That was a very emotional scene where they basically went to visit his son's grave, Jack's son's grave, and it was a very emotional scene. And the whole ending where he basically goes to therapy to fight his chronic alcoholism, basically, it's The Way Back is my favorite film of 2020 and probably is honestly better than Avengers Endgame. Because while I felt emotional by the ending and invested by the characters, I didn't feel as invested with one character in that movie as much as I was with The Way Back. I was invested in Jack's story from beginning to end, and I adore this film. But that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. Stay tuned tomorrow for a huge video as I finally return to the most anticipated series on my channel, Loud House Month. Yes, guys, that will be uploaded tomorrow, January 2nd. And I hope you like this video, guys. And that's about it. Gaming Jew here. See you later. Bye.